Every villain has a version of the story that never makes it into the official record. In Wicked for Good, we finally see how much of Elphaba's wickedness was manufactured, how much Glinda lost while trying to maintain her perfect image.
Some stories aren't just about good versus evil. They're about what we become when the world demands we choose a side. Wicked for Good shatters the fairy tale version of Oz and forces us to confront the cost of truth-telling in a society built on lies.
Elphaba pays the price for resisting the system, while Glinda pays a different price for upholding it.
Their fractured friendship is at the center of Oz's entire political transformation, and the truth is far more tragic than the fairy tale. Join us for this non-spoiler review, followed by a just out of the theater spoiler discussion of Wicked for Good.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
We want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App, or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber.
If you stick around long enough, we will spoil this for you. Yes,
but this first part is going to be a non-spoiler review, letting you know kind of what our first thoughts are without spoiling the movie. And just an aside from that, a lot of you miss videos because you're not getting your YouTube notifications. And so we have fixed this. Subscribe to our newsletter for personalized notifications of all of our videos as they're released across all of our channels. You'll get an email telling you when a new video is out, and the link is in the description. So let's just get right into our first reactions out of the theater of, non-spoiler reactions of Wicked for Good. Let's talk about the 3D. We got a chance to see it. It is actually, we're recording this before Wicked comes out officially to everybody.
Right. So what happened was that they had an earlier showing, but it was only in 3D. And a lot of people don't like to see 3D, but this was the only showing where we are of it. So
yes.
We had to see it in 3D.
For context, though, like the movie officially comes out Friday. A lot of times you can see the new releases on Thursday, but we got to see it on Wednesday. And of course, like you said, in 3D. What did you think of the 3D?
In the beginning, it's very good. You see all the stuff. I don't know if you just get complacent with it, you get used to it, or they stop putting those same elements. And I don't know if they're thinking about that because they're just basically using a technology that makes it appear 3D. So I don't know if they're really considering that when they're making the film.
Well, for me, the 3D was kind of like I could have done without it because in our theaters, the theater to me, I think our screens are just naturally darker. And
they turn down the bulb.
Yeah, they must be doing something. So then when you put your 3D glasses on, which make things kind of a little darker in the process of giving you that extra depth perception, it just, it wasn't that great.
Right. But there were scenes and stuff where it was just like, hey, these things are floating around, which looks really good in 3D, right? And I'm like, wow, this thing really does look like it's right in front of me.
Yeah.
Right. But then there are situations where you have blurred stuff in the forefront, right? Because you're focusing on something farther back. And then that blurred part is in a way in the 3D version.
Right.
So it doesn't look right in 3D.
Right. So, I could have done without the 3D, but 3D wasn't bad. Like there were some really impressive parts. I'll also say, you guys, as you can tell, I wear glasses. So, I had to actually switch to my different glasses that are a little smaller so the 3D lenses will fit over them better. Luckily, I had them with me in the theater. But so I felt like I suffered a little bit, and this is like more of a personal problem, kind of from eye fatigue by the end with the 3D glasses on for a 2-hour and 18-minute movie. And the other thing, if you guys are going to see the 3D, I don't know about your theaters, but where we are, we were like, yeah, we're early. We walked in the theater. It's at like 6:28. The movie was supposed to start at 6:30. We're expecting like 30 minutes of
I think it's
promos.
Because it was an early showing, not because it was 3D.
Or some, right? I don't know what it was, but it didn't have anything in front of it. Like because we got some concessions and then we came in and
Elphaba was flying around.
Yeah, like, Elphaba was like, so we missed maybe probably like the first minute of the movie or so, I would imagine. But it wasn't like we missed a whole bunch because it seemed to be picking up where the last movie left off after she flies away.
But I don't think that's what happened.
Oh, okay.
Because maybe it picked up there, but there was this time gap in the beginning. Because they refer a lot to, times past and all this stuff of how she became wicked, and this whole campaign against Elphaba.
Well, yeah.
All right. So then I'm thinking.
So maybe it's in that 90 seconds.
I could be wrong, but to me, I thought it was quite a bit time elapsed between the end of the last movie and the beginning of this one.
Well, no. Oh, yes. So there definitely was time elapsing. But I guess well, yes. Okay. So you are correct. There is time that did pass between the two. So I guess I was kind of thinking of it picking up.
As she flew away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, but
Want us to cover your favorite movie ASAP? A one-time contribution of just $50 or more to Axiom Amnesia gets you a deep dive on demand, a 30-minute discussion on any film you choose.
It's easy. Step 1, send $50 via our website, axiom.app, where you can pay via card, Apple Pay, or you can pay directly via Cash App at $Axiom Amnesia. See the links below. Step 2, tell us your movie, email, the name you want to appear on screen, and what kind of deep dive you want. General, a specific character, a particular aspect of the film, etc. Step 3, watch your deep dive on demand with your name listed as executive producer.
Lock in your deep dive on demand today and hurry. Spots are limited.
This offer is not valid for filmmakers or distributors. Subject to availability and terms apply. So anyway, so let's talk about the plot a little bit without ruining it for people. Was it what you expected?
I didn't have any expectations. I don't know.
Well, for full disclosure, last year, so you guys who have been with us the whole time know that we had not seen the musical on Broadway or anywhere else.
Didn't read the book.
We didn't read the book. So we literally went into the first part of Wicked not knowing what to expect or knowing what would happen. And after we finished, I loved the first part of Wicked so much. I was like, I'm about to read the book. I'm about to, because we were having to wait a year for part 2. And you said, don't ruin it. So I literally did not. I did not read the book that I really wanted to read. I didn't go and watch, the many videos of the musical. I did not do any of that. So it was an actual complete surprise to me, this second part of the film.
So everything we say is based strictly on the film. There is no, I know this about the character, or I know this happened because we read the book or watched the musical or seen the musical.
Right. Everything is based strictly on the film, and that is it. So as far as the plot, so actually, this is maybe unrealistic. And I thought about the fact that they filmed this as one movie and then it just turned out to be too long. And there are things they didn't want to cut out and they wanted to tell a bigger story, which is how they chopped it into 2. So it's not like they went back and filmed the second one. Everything was already filmed at the end of the first part that we saw. Like it was all filmed together as one piece. And I was expecting to feel like I felt at the end of the first movie at the end of the second movie, and I did not.
How did you feel at the end of the first movie?
At the end of the first movie, we all know Elphaba flies, she's flying away. We hear the war cry, we hear all of that, right? And I was just on a high. I was like, yes, I am Team Elphaba. I am hyped up. And then the ending of this movie, because it was heavier. This movie was heavier than the first one. And I guess it makes sense that it would be if you think of it as part 1 and part 2, as opposed to it being part 1 being a finished, you know what I mean? Because some people say part 1 was on a cliffhanger, but actually...
I didn't see it as a cliffhanger.
I didn't. It was, that could have been the end of it, right?
Yeah, and if it never had part 2, I'd have been like, okay, that's how she got wicked.
Yeah, this is the story of how she got wicked. Now, of course...
because then when they close it, I think they show Dorothy coming up the Yellow Brick Road, right?
Yeah, and then we can make assumptions about what all happened that brought that. Although I will say, so the whole movie itself, both of them are a flashback, right? Because if you remember at the beginning of the first movie, Glinda comes and she's on her bubble, carriage or whatever. And she's telling the story and she's like, yes, I knew her from school. And then that's when we start to see that story of Elphaba in school that, and how they knew one another, right? And so I think that is... so from that perspective, it was a cliffhanger. But you know how when somebody starts off a story at the beginning, you don't always remember those details once you get lost into the story about how you were at the beginning. So if at the end of the movie it ended like that, I felt good. I felt, at the end of this movie, it felt complete, but I didn't feel, I wouldn't, the word is not good. Like I felt energized at the end of the first movie. And at the end of the second movie,
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. If
so that was how I felt in terms of the plot. What did you think about the singing?
Oh no, I could have done without that. You know, I don't be doing those songs like that.
Yeah.
And there was no songs. Maybe I paid more attention to the songs this time, and I was like, okay, now I see how it goes. Because some stuff in there that's not explained just through the dialogue and stuff. You have to listen to the song. But so I listened through them all, and I didn't really tune them out. And I'm just like, yeah, there was a part of one of the songs where they quote make love. I don't know how you.
Yeah.
That song, it was like a R&B type of the song.
Love vibe.
Yeah. But that's it. Other than that, I didn't like any part of any of the other songs. But I did like them bringing back "No One Mourns the Wicked." Well,
yeah,
the wicked lives are lonely. That part.
Yeah, the "No One Mourns the Wicked." I don't know if you call that like an overture, where they kind of or whatever they kind of weave that back in. They do that with a lot of the songs that are from the first soundtrack, right? However, I would say from the music perspective, none of the music hit my heart like "No One Mourns the Wicked," and I was happy to see or hear it weaved in a little bit here. And then of course the Unlimited theme that we hear throughout the film is I love that melody, and so I was happy to hear that weaved in there. And then other things like so my three favorite songs from the first one: "No One Mourns the Wicked," I'm not that girl, and then the big song that everybody loves, right?
Yeah.
So those were the three, and then a couple of those resurfaced. Well, I think all of them resurfaced in the second part, which I liked because those were my three favorite from the entire movie. And so now, as far as the music is concerned, there's a big song that's a duet song that everybody is like, oh, this was so great, it was so emotional. I will say, during that song, I did cry a little bit in the theater. It did make me feel emotional after everything I had seen, but it's not the way that I don't want to go back and listen to that song the same way that I did. But what I'll say is that the music, the movie made me want to see the music.
Hear the music.
Yeah. The movie made me want to hear the music again versus the songs that I was aware of would be in the second part when I, like in the previews or whatever, and in the trailers, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to like the music. That's how I felt going in. And I would say it's not that I didn't like the music. It just wasn't better than the first part to me. So that's, that's what I think about I mean, of course, the singing of everything was always on point. We can't even question that. Singing was amazing.
There's something very annoying in the film, though.
What?
They keep saying the clock tick. See you in the clock tick, or
see you at the clock tick, or
the tick of a clock. And
somebody in the comments might know the history of all of that. And the other part is we've only seen it one time, so that's the other part. When you've seen it a bunch of times, you can reflect on things and understand the source of everything.
But the point is that they say it way too much. You know what I'm saying? Like you could say it a couple times. I know they said it at least 4 times.
Well, it made me wonder. Okay, what's that about? Right? What and I don't have an answer for that right now because I've barely had time to really process having seen the film and put it with everything that I knew from before. So the big question is, should it have been 2 parts or one really long movie? I don't know how you have a movie that's 4.5 hours
probably
long,
make more money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
but okay, from a viewer experience though.
Well, one shorter movie, but if you like this, then you want 2 movies. It just depends on.
Well, let me say this. I think that I would have liked it less if I had seen this as one movie.
Yeah, but what if it was shorter?
I still think I would have liked it less because what made me just fall in love with that first part was just the exhilaration of.
Yeah, but I'm sure they could have cut a lot of it out.
Yeah, but it's the high of where she was at the point. So I would have been happy, at let's just say halfway through the movie, when Elphaba flies off with her war cry. But then I wouldn't have been as happy at the end of the movie. You know, and so yeah. But because I'm desperately trying not to ruin it for anybody. But all right. So do you feel that the second part was more or less emotional than the first part? Like, do you from
probably more, and it went real much deeper into expressly speaking to what the themes and issues they're trying to get at.
Right.
Which I like. So while you could come back and you'll be like, well, what they're trying to say is this and that, but they say it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you'd be like, this is about politics and whatever else and business and blah blah blah. They explicitly say it, right?
Right. And Gregory Maguire. Okay, so you guys probably know Wicked was a book that was written, and I think it was like 1995 or so when it was written, and then it became the musical that we know about, right? And so I saw an interview. Well, we actually both watched it. An interview with Gregory Maguire. And he was talking about it, and he was saying how it speaks to themes even like right now today. And obviously he had no way of knowing with what we would be living in 2025 and that there would be a movie about the stuff in 2025. Yeah. But how he said it has a different flavor, I think was the word that the way he chose to put it. It gives a different flavor in terms of the idea of being in a place like, because you think about what was going on with the animals, right? The animals, Oz is their home too. And then they're like, the smart animals, the ones that could speak and all of that are being treated like second class citizens, and craziness is going on and they're being relegated to certain areas, and so where we are at this point in especially American history in politics is it grates against the nerve of that part of what's going on with current events too, and it's very timely. Yeah, I mean, but all in all, we have to answer the question: was it worth the watch?
Yeah, I think so. If you've seen the first one, my whole thing going in is how does it interface with the Wizard of Oz? That's it. For the second one, I need to know when Dorothy and them come along and all that. How does this even work? Yeah. But for that reason is why I'm kind of like, the film didn't really do what it was supposed to do. Now, I don't know if the musical really ties it up real nice, but I think it's less important than the musical. But I'm looking for it to be tied up in a nice bow and not have really big holes and stuff.
And you felt that you did point out some things that you felt were big holes. And we'll talk more about them in detail in the spoiler portion. But yeah.
But I'm like, so because it's very hard to not think about the film, The Wizard of Oz, and what happened. But you can also you can watch it and be like, okay, this is the point of view of whatever, right? Of the people of Oz and Munchkinland or whatever, right? Of the Wicked Witch of the West, right? Because Elphaba is the Wicked Witch of the West, and then we have Glinda, the Good Witch, right? And we see them in The Wizard of Oz. So I'm like, I needed to kind of maybe tie in to that film.
Better than you felt that.
Well, I don't know about better. I just needed to do that.
So you haven't seen The Wizard of Oz since you were, a lot younger.
Yeah. So it's stuff that I don't remember about it. So I will have to go back and watch it with my wicked eyes. And then see like, oh, okay, this really, it works. But there's some things that I just think don't work.
Right. No, I got you. Obviously, I think it is worth the watch. But I was concerned, and I told you guys in the last video that we did a couple weeks ago when we were reacting to the trailer, that I feared that the second part would not be as good as the first part. And I'm going to give you the answer to that question in the spoiler portion, because I don't, whether I think it was as good as the first part or not, because I want to be able to give you reasons why I feel that way, and I don't want to spoil it for you. But we will definitely have that conversation in a couple minutes. It is now time almost for our spoiler review. Before we get to the spoiler review, though, I want to just mention to you guys that we do have new merch that's out. Think for yourself, question everything, and break free from the so-called truths that they want you to accept. The Axiom Amnesia collection is here. Bold logo t-shirts and hoodies designed for thinkers like you who refuse to settle for the assumptions. Stand out and make a statement. Show the world you don't just go along to get along, you think critically. Plus, It's a great way to support the channel and keep the work that we do here going. So get yours today. The link's in the description, or you can visit us anytime at axiom.app. So now we're on to the spoiler review. The first thing we should talk about is a general summary of what happened in the film. So I'm going to kind of blaze through that so we can get to some of the meat of the discussion. But for those of you who don't plan on watching the movie and want it spoiled, you're about to have it spoiled right now. A few years after rejecting the wizard, Elphaba lives in hiding, still fighting for the rights of animals being hunted, controlled, and silenced across Oz. Glinda, meanwhile, has risen to the wizard's polished spokesperson and is engaged to Fiyero, who privately continues searching for Elphaba. When Elphaba encounters fleeing animals, and including Dulcibir, who once cared for her, she urges them to resist, only for the cowardly lion to reveal that the wizard's flying monkey spies owe their wings to her earlier magic. So, determined to reconnect with her family, Elphaba visits her sister Nessa Rose, who is now the strict governor of Munchkin Land. Nessa has revoked Munchkin freedoms to keep Bach from leaving her. And if you remember, Bach is the guy that she, really liked in part one. And hoping to help, Elphaba enchants Nessa Rose's shoes so she can basically be mobile, because we know Nessa Rose is in a wheelchair. She's able to fly, but then the gesture backfires when Bach decides that he's just going to leave anyway. He's just like, hey, now that you're good, I'm going to be out. And so Nessa's desperate spell, because Nessa Rose decides she's going to try to cast the spell herself, harms him. And then Elphaba is trying to save his life because this spell is transforming him. So she winds up transforming him into the Tin Man. So we see now the characters that Dorothy from the original Wizard of Oz was with. At least two of them have come up. We got the Tin Man, who used to be Bach, and we have the Cowardly Lion, who actually was the lion cub that Elphaba rescued in the first movie, to rescue so that he could be free. So Elphaba returns to the Emerald City, demanding that the wizard reveal the truth to the people. And instead, he insists the public only cares about comforting lies, and he urges her to join him. She almost agrees until she sees all of the caged animals, and the ones who are caged are the ones who like her professor and the ones who could talk, the ones that were upwardly mobile and stuff. And so then she decides that she's not, down to be with the wizard or whatever. And so Fiyero helps her escape. And then Fiyero is basically choosing her over Glinda in this moment. And so just to remind you, Fiyero and Glinda are actually supposed to be getting married in this moment because they've gotten engaged previously or earlier in the film. And so feeling betrayed, Glinda allows Madame Morrible and the wizard to bait Elphaba by endangering Nessa Rose. And she's unaware that the plan is going to escalate. And not only does she allow them to bait, she gives them the idea. She's like, well, if you want to get Elphaba to come out, then you just use her sister, right? Because in this moment, Glinda's heart is broken because she looks at it like, and it's really kind of true, right? That Elphaba stole her man. That's basically what has happened to this point. And so Elphaba and Fiyero admit their love to one another, but then, and they get down. And then when Elphaba senses danger, she leaves for Fiero's family's abandoned castle. And when she does, she discovers that a tornado that had been conjured up by Madame Morrible has killed Nessa Rose, right? So the tornado has a house that winds up landing on top of Nessa. And at this point, Nessa is known as the Wicked Witch of the East. Now, back to the point where Bach is turned into the Tin Man. That's when Nessa acknowledges basically that she's also wicked too, because she had been trying not to be wicked like her sister, but in fact, she was actually being really wicked, not wicked in the way that Elphaba was considered wicked, right? She was for real wicked because, she was ruling with this iron fist and she was being mean and she was really holding this man who didn't want to be with her captive. So Nessa Rose is dead, or the Wicked Witch of the East, right? So we see Glinda, telling Dorothy to, go ahead and go find go up the street basically and find the wizard. So Dorothy has on Nessa Rose's shoes at this moment in time. So Dorothy goes off, and then that's when Elphaba shows up and sees Glinda, and then they have it out. They actually have a physical fight in this moment that you thought was kind of unrealistic.
Yeah, what's going on?
Like how are they fighting one another, but with the broom and with the magic wand and stuff like that. And
Well, not about it being unrealistic, that this is not this type of character. Like the character shouldn't be able to do this. Glinda is not, like, how is she just all of a sudden she could barely do anything. All she could do is get attention and look good, and then she's blocking stuff like a martial artist.
Right.
It's very weird.
Yes. And so after this confrontation, or in the midst of the confrontation, then the guards come, and they are basically about to take Elphaba into, custody. And then Fiyero shows up, and he saves Elphaba by, pointing his weapon at Glinda. In this moment, Glinda is so hurt because she's like, not only did you leave me for this chick, but then you love her so much that you would threaten to kill me or use me as the pawn, you know what I'm saying, to get them to get off of her. And so it all works or whatever. Glinda's little heart is broken. Elphaba gets away, and she wants Fiyero to come too, but Fiero's like, nah, I'm not coming. And so then, of course, after Elphaba escapes, then Fiyero is taken into custody by the guards, and they about to kill him. They like, let's string him up, let's take him in, whatever. So in this moment, you realize that Fiyero is about to become the Scarecrow, okay? And the way he becomes the Scarecrow is because, once again, Elphaba is casting a spell to save his life, so that he is not killed in the process of them beating him up bad. So she's, back, at the castle, basically like, look, whatever it is, even if he's hit, don't let him die. So he is turned into the Scarecrow as a result of that. So then Oz wants, Oz the wizard, he wants to hunt Elphaba. And so, at the same time, Elphaba is so upset by everything that has happened. She too has embraced her wicked reputation. And, we hear her sing the song, No Good Deed Goes Unpunished, or the lyrics that she's singing. And so then Dorothy, because when she goes to see the Wiz, he's like, hey, bring me the witch's broom to prove to me that she's dead. So that basically he's manipulated Dorothy in order to get her. So then next thing you know, it's basically a lynch mob that's looking for Elphaba. And Glinda gradually realizes in the process of things the full consequences of her going along with what Morrible and what the wizard wanted. Like, she is a part of this. And when she realizes that, she confronts Morrible and she tries to reject the wizard's manipulations, but then she finally does. And then she rushes to Elphaba's side. And then the two friends, sing a song, share a final goodbye. They forgive each other for everything. And they, are like confessing that they were their only friends. And then Elphaba is going to die. And she knows it in this moment. And so does Glinda. So after that happens, Elphaba is getting the water ready because, in the movie, in the original, the Wicked Witch of the West is killed by just water getting thrown on her or whatever. And so we're seeing that kind of get prepped. Then we see as Glinda is hiding in a closet so they won't see her, that Elphaba has put her in. And we see everything just happen. And then we hear the screams of the witches, and whatnot as Dorothy throws the water on her. Dorothy takes the broom and skips on back to the wizard or whatever because, Dorothy thinks she's done the right thing and whatever. So then after that happens, we see Glinda come out, and then the only thing left of Elphaba is the hat, and she's crying and everything and whatnot. And, it's just a really sad moment in the movie. So after that, one of the flying monkeys gives Glinda one of Elphaba's keepsakes, which is this green jar, that the green elixir that her mother had drunk when her mother, because we all knew that the governor or Rednessa Rose's father was not Elphaba's father, right? And of course, we all knew at this point that, we've known since the first one that it was kind of implicated that the wizard was her father, was Elphaba's father. But in this moment, we realize that it is her father.
His bottle look like, I think it's like Bombay.
And
liquor bottle, but like mini bottles.
Yeah, and then and we had seen the wizard drinking from a similar bottle too. So if you didn't catch it in the first movie, you definitely should have caught it before this moment in the second movie. But if you didn't catch it at this moment, then Glinda goes to confront the wizard once she realizes what's going on. And so when she goes to confront the wizard and tell him, what's up, she's like, look, you have caused, like, you've just done terrible things. And then she said this was a keepsake from her, and it was from, and she explains the situation. And at this point, the wizard realizes that Elphaba is his daughter. So he'd been trying to kill her, and she was his daughter the whole time. He even had talked about earlier how he never had a family, and that's why he had Oz, and, that's why he did what he could for them, blah, 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 right? And you really set your daughter up the whole time. This was your child. So Glinda grows some kahunas, and she tells the wizard, hey, you about to bounce from here today, So she's like starting to be bold and growing into her new role of just not being complicit with the nonsense. And so the wizard's like, okay, and he says he'll leave. Then she goes and confronts Madame Morrible. She like, you gonna be up out of here too, and blah, blah, blah. And then the flying monkey snatched her butt up off of there. So now you done got rid of the bad people and all of that and whatever. And then Glinda is really sad. But we see her putting on her dress and her, her tiara and everything so that she can go to talk to the people, which was at the beginning of the first movie, right? When she comes in on her bubble and then the townspeople are asking questions and all that. But this time around, when she's about to completely deny Elphaba, she doesn't. And she's just like, yeah, she was my friend and whatever. But more importantly, she invites the animals back because, Elphaba, the whole thing for Elphaba was like, what was happening to the animals was wrong. It was wrong that the wizard and Morrible were lying. It was wrong, all that they were doing. And so in honor of her fallen friend, Elphaba, Glinda is letting the animals come back and saying we all gonna be here together. Oz is for all of us, all of that. And so that was a difference. And so this is how that piece of it is resolved. Yes. For those of you who don't know, you should visit axiom.app. And you'll be able to look at all of the recent videos across all of our channels. And I'm putting that on the screen right now just so y'all can see it and see what it looks like. Because there are a ton of videos that are over there. And also, I think that there are at least about 100 exclusive videos that are available for our Patreon members and our YouTube members. So, if you're interested in more of our content, as I've seen many of you binge watching, be sure to check those things out. And then the next thing we see, Fiyero, as the scarecrow, then retrieved Elphaba from up under the ground like it was like a trap door or something, in that, where she had apparently fallen down after the water was sprayed. She went down in there and had been hiding. And so then they gonna live a happily ever after in the place beyond Oz, right? Because the animals, when they were leaving earlier in the film, they were like, we're gonna go to this place beyond Oz. It was gonna be down through some tunnel and off into another universe or whatever. And so they decide they're gonna go ahead and leave. Now, the other piece that I did leave out was this book, this kind of like spell book that was from the first movie and in the second movie that only Elphaba could decipher and say the spells and have them work out of. She had given that book before she was killed in air quotes. She'd given it to Glinda and was like, if you're going to be good, then you need to actually know how to do these spells. And so you're going to have to practice. And so she had given her that book. So then we see Elphaba and her man as a scarecrow leaving, and they going off to be happily ever after. And she looks back, and then Glinda comes out and she's on her balcony and she looks at the book and she, starts saying, kind of looking at the book and just deciding that she's going to be actually good. And Elphaba does, send some positive energy that way, I guess is the best way I could describe it. And then the book opens and you see the, stuff starts swirling and working. So we realize that essentially Glinda has the juice now, right? Bruh. And that's what happens in the movie. That's the end of the movie. That's how it ends. And so, yeah. But that was just to kind of give some context to what we're talking about. We didn't go into the fine details, and we'll talk about some of that as we discuss the things that go on. So let's just start with the ending. Did you like the way it ended?
No.
Why?
Because it felt like rush. They just had to make things tie up. Like all of a sudden, Wizard, you gotta go. Bye. I'm leaving. You know what I'm saying? Maribel, what's her name? Marble.
Madam Marble.
Morrible. You gotta go. Bye. You know, like what? Of all of this, that was very easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not like Morrible didn't have powers.
Right.
Too. You know what I'm saying? So she could bring this house all the way over and drop it on somebody, but then just all of a sudden it's like, you bad.
Mm-hmm.
Did she just get
the
carried
monkeys
away?
Just carry her away. It's just
like
done.
What? Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm still not sure if I liked the ending or didn't like the ending. I would say I was devastated when I thought that Elphaba was dead, but I'm leaning toward. On one hand, I wonder if that was a better ending, maybe more realistic ending.
No, they would have to make it make sense because we know water doesn't kill her. Too.
Well, it killed the original witch.
But this isn't. We know that what's about the original witch wasn't true because she wasn't really wicked and all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't know. They could have swept it under the rug like they did other questions.
So the thing was when it happened, I was like, this don't make sense because water don't kill her. You know what I'm saying? So then when they showed her, but they were like, hey, she just went under the floor, but she has powers. Why does she need to just be under the floor right there where like a magician would do, like Oz, the wizard would do, right? Mm-hmm. The wizard would pull a trick like that and just be under the floor right there.
Right.
But somebody with powers don't need to do that.
Right.
So, yeah. But then it was just like, then she left the hat. Why did she leave the hat? And she's just off in barren land. Mm-hmm. Like, what?
With her man,
none of the animals didn't meet up with none of the animals who left earlier in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, as far as liking the ending, I don't know if so overall I liked the movie. Okay. And I'm not like, oh, this movie was bad. I'm not even necessarily disappointed. I just know that it wasn't as good as the first part to me.
I don't know. I think it's better than the first one.
Okay.
Because the more of the emotional, you had the love triangle, you had the, hey, we're doing this for all of these reasons. Look at who writes history and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And then you got the conundrum of, hey, people need to see good, right? And that's why we need you. So you need to have that duality, right? What is good?
Yeah.
If there's no evil,
right?
Evil is good.
Right.
You know,
a reference to Vampire in Brooklyn, which I'll link in the description that we covered recently during October. But,
yeah, so you have all that stuff that's in this film. The first one is just like, hey, we're friends. You treated me bad. It was like Miss Congeniality or one of them movies. I don't know. You know which type
Mean
of
Girls
movie.
type
Mean
of
Girls
stuff.
type of movie and stuff. But this one
went a lot deeper.
Yeah, it went a lot deeper, but they didn't tie in the things a certain way. But yeah, I think it was better movie because of those reasons.
So you mentioned the plot holes earlier, you know, and like about her getting killed and why did she have to hide under there if she had, you know, the powers, and were there other plot holes that you felt?
How does Glinda and Dorothy get the shoes?
Oh yeah, that was one you pointed out too, right? Because see, in the movie, that we see Dorothy walk off,
Wizard of Oz.
Right, in the Wizard of Oz, the witch confronts Dorothy. The witch does not confront Dorothy until the final moments, or, you know, Elphaba, right? She doesn't confront Dorothy on the yellow brick road. Dorothy comes to her at the castle, and that's the only time they interact with one another. So,
but could it be that they interacted, but we didn't see it?
Well, yeah, that was what I was asking you.
But,
you know, I don't know.
How does she get the shoes? We seen that it was magic that got the shoes, right? So did Glinda just go and take the shoes off of Nessa?
Well, and this is where I feel like Glinda, what she was doing in this movie was just like some diabolical things. It was nasty work, you know. And when you think about how sweet and nice she was basically coming off. Yeah, I'm talking about the shoes. Because that was nasty work. Like, you basically had Morrible and the wizard to kill Elphaba's sister, Nessa Rose.
Yeah.
You set it up, told them basically to, if not kill her, to use her in that way. She's killed as a result of your idea to use her sister. And then you show up at the scene of the crime and you give away her shoes to
gave
Dorothy,
her shoes for no reason,
and then send her to the wizard that you already know is on that nonsense.
And then waited for the soldiers to show up to kill Elphaba.
Yeah.
Like, what? Because
like, you live in foul, girl.
Elphaba stole her man.
Yes.
But so then you have Elphaba who's like, I need those shoes as a keepsake for my sister, right?
Right.
And that's this whole thing that drives after that, I guess. I don't know.
Well, that's driving her, and
Dorothy?
that causes them to have that physical fight, right? Because this is the moment where they have the physical fight,
but
with one another.
She never got the shoes in the movie.
No, she never got the shoes. Dorothy kept
and
the
she
shoes.
left her hat. Like, what? I don't understand this. Why would she just leave the shoes? Why can't you give that to this character to have the so-called happy ending at least?
Well,
happy she didn't never got
because we
the
don't even
keepsake.
get a resolution with Dorothy, right? Because in the regular movie, we know that, all right, when the wizard decides he's going to take off in the hot air balloon, but in the movie, Dorothy's dog jumps out the balloon because Dorothy is going to ride back to the real world with the wizard. But Toto the dog jumps out of the hot air balloon, and then Dorothy got to go chase Toto, and they miss the balloon, and so she can't get back home from Oz. And then that's when you get the whole click your heels 3 times, and you always had the power the whole time to go home, right? That's how Dorothy gets home. So Dorothy needed the shoes to click them 3 times, to click her heels 3 times, right? And
no, because she always had the power. So was the shoes the power? Because what we think is this is a dream too for Dorothy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So Dorothy was on acid or something, right?
It's hard to reconcile the whole thing.
It's a dream where the good witch is telling a story of something that happened.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a little bit that's not reconciled, and I guess that's fine.
And the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and the Cowardly Lion and all that, they were real people in Dorothy's real life back in Kansas as well. Who she recognized.
Right. But so then you also had the Cowardly Lion,
Witch,
right?
Yeah.
The Cowardly Lion, he couldn't talk, but Fiyero, and it was like, tell them. About what happened and all this. Was it Fiyero or somebody? I don't know. It don't matter. The point is, the animals weren't supposed to be able to talk and all this.
It was the Tin Man.
Yes, they were oppressed and all that. And they were just like, tell them about why would this animal talk? Because, like, this is just a thing, right? That's, you know what I'm saying? And then those characters who we know are now just along the way of Dorothy's trip meeting Dorothy and then going to see the wizard for these reasons. And if the Scarecrow comes out, who is Fiyero, why does he go there? Why does the Tin Man go there?
Well, the Tin Man goes there because he's actually pissed with Elphaba, because he's like, look at what you did to me. You turned me into this thing.
But they're going to see the wizard. You know what I'm saying?
Well, because they believe in a wizard. Although
Fiyero
Fiyero shouldn't go to see the wizard in this moment. But maybe he's going to protect, to make sure that they're not able to get Elphaba. So he's like a, inside man.
After the whole broom part, right? You need to get the broom. But how do they just get out there in the middle of nowhere and have to be, go and meet the wizard too? It's like,
But I mean, that would just be too many details.
I don't know which parts of the movie I got to throw, the Wizard of Oz I have to throw away. Or not. I guess most of it, but then I don't even care about these 2 movies at all.
Well, then, okay, so let's talk about Glinda and her diabolical things. We talked about how she, sent Madame Morrible after Elphaba's sister, and the whole thing about giving Dorothy the shoes and stuff. And, that happens. And then we also talked about how Nessa Rose became kind of the Wicked Witch of the East because she was being wicked, supposedly in an attempt to not be perceived like her sister, but she was acting evil in the process. So she became, a Wicked Witch of the East, or the Wicked Witch of the East. And so we have these two women who are acting out over their love interest. Now, one thing we did not mention about the engagement between Fiyero and Glinda is that Fiyero did not ask Glinda to marry him. Glinda decided, along with the wizard, she was like, oh yeah, we're engaged. And, in front of a crowd, she's like, yeah, we are engaged. And, we thought that'd be a good idea. You didn't even wait. So you are chasing this man. And I say that both Glinda and Nessa Rose broke their own hearts, chasing these men who didn't want you like that. And Glinda knew because Glinda was being very aggressive toward Fiyero. Okay, let me make this happen. And Fiyero was just going along to get along, but he knew he had a little spark for Elphaba. He knew it, but he and Elphaba were not going to act on it in that moment. Until they could just apparently no longer resist it in this movie.
They did though, right? In the first movie. No,
they didn't really act on it.
Not really.
They because when
kind of cheated.
They almost kissed, right?
Okay, so.
But other than that, that was it. And
so almost kissing is fine?
No, it's not fine.
That's what
But at the same time, I don't think that they were established as boyfriend and girlfriend
right, exactly,
that way too. It was just that I know that, because that's when she sings, I'm not that girl. I know that my friend likes this guy. I like him too. Yeah. And I'm going to step back, and he couldn't possibly like me anyway. So it don't even matter.
I thought Glinda and them were together though. Glinda and Fiyero in the first movie.
Well, really she was claiming him, but he wasn't claiming her. That's kind of my point about saying this. And then when we look at Nessa Rose and Bach, the only reason that Bach took Nessa Rose out is because Bach, is like double love triangle. Bach liked Glinda, right? And she wanted to get him off her back. So she like, go over there to this girl. So then that's how they got to be interacting like that. And then Nessa Rose is like, oh, basically she's thinking she gets the desires of her heart. And both of them are doing whatever they can to hold on to these men that don't want them like that. And, what a hard lesson. And this is why Glinda's feelings were so hurt when she realizes, and then she was like, the whole time you all were cheating. They were like, no, it wasn't like that. But how many times we heard that line, right? It wasn't like that. And as far as we know, it really wasn't like that. But Fiyero was like, yeah, I'll marry you. I mean, whatever you want. Basically, he just was very lukewarm. He was not passionate at all. And by passionate, I don't mean romantically like that. I'm just saying he just didn't have any kind of, he was like, I'm always happy, so it don't matter. Yeah, I'll marry you, whatever it need to be. Like he was very, casual about this interaction. But then we saw Bach, who was basically like, no, I don't want to be with you, Nessa Rose. I'm done. I was just kind of being around here to help you out. But now that you seem straight, I'm a bounce. Because when he saw that Glinda was going to marry Fiyero, he was like, look, I got to go shoot my shot.
Yeah. So how did she become the Wicked Witch of the East? Because this film don't give it to me, right? It shows that she's wicked. Were they calling her a witch as governor? Or was it just your policies so bad?
Well, I think your policies are bad. And then I think that she refused to take responsibility for her bad policies where she was controlling and being wrong. And so she's like, I'm being called a witch because my sister is a witch. But no, you being called a witch because you acting like one. Then she embraces her witchdom after the whole debacle where Bach gets turned into the Tin Man, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So so that's what happened. But
it just didn't put the oomph on it, right? So when I see Elphaba, I know you the Wicked Witch of the West because you talking about look out west, right? And then everybody's like, you wicked, kill her, blah blah blah. But then it's just kind of just supposed. You know what I'm saying? It's hinted at with her sister Nessa. That you're the Wicked Witch of the East. When I watch The Wizard of Oz, it's the Wicked Witch of the East. I know this, the Wicked Witch of the East. But I still, So it's a minor thing.
So there's no place like home. This concept, of course, this is what Dorothy is saying in the original Wizard of Oz. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. This is her chant, right? But then there's a song that Elphaba actually sings in here when she's meeting up with the animals and they're leaving to go to the place beyond Oz because they're like, look, we being persecuted. We about to bounce. We can't stay here. Even though this is our home, we can't stay here. You shouldn't stay here because they looking for you. And that was the piece that really, really related a lot to kind of current modern times, and just the existence for certain people. Like if you're looking at just the United States, certain groups within the United States where it's like, this is where I am, this is where I'm from, this is where I've been, and I'm not wanted where I am. I'm treated badly and as a second class citizen. And, it doesn't even have to be any one particular group. It could be a racial group. It could be, maybe that's how you feel as a woman. Maybe that's how you feel as any marginalized group. It can be relatable because right now it's pretty tough out here for people who are not following a certain type of mainstream
or like,
existence.
Yeah, or like what happened in Germany, right? People talking about, hey, just leave. You know what I'm saying? Then you have other people, you don't need to leave. You got to stay and fight, right? But there's consequences to this, right? And you got the other mentions of that.
Right.
No good deed goes unpunished. And
we saw
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
We saw that in here,
Like,
so.
Yeah, so you do have that tug of war and you don't know what to do. But in the end, it was Elphaba who fled.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had mentioned earlier about, being concerned that the second part would not be as good as the first part. And so my answer to that question is that the second part to me is not as good as the first part. And I was explaining that the high of how I felt at the end of the first part, where Elphaba is just on at the pinnacle of wherever she could be. I loved that. Then the ending of this film did not give me, I didn't feel good about it. And I didn't feel good because for a number of reasons, because ultimately Elphaba can only live on in exile. Elphaba also can only live on with the truth never really being known about her, with the sacrifice that she made so that Glinda could, she has to be, somebody got to be bad so you could be good.
Ain't that how things are?
It is how things are. And I just didn't like it. And it didn't make me feel
marginalized
good.
people always having to play the background for decades and centuries, right?
Yeah.
Because of things like this. So.
Whereas at the end of the first part, I was like, yes.
Yeah, but
she ain't got to play the background because she at least is whatever they perceive her.
But she still ended up wicked at the end of the first one.
Or being perceived that way because she didn't do anything wrong at the first one.
So what do you think about the people who had specific power, right? You had Elphaba and you had Morrible. They were the only two who really had power in the film.
And because that's something we didn't talk about. So Glinda basically was faking her power, right? That whole bubble thing. She was like, Morrible was telling her like, they won't know, that you don't have any powers. You'll be able to fake it till you make it. And then we also do get a glimpse into Glinda's past because Glinda always wanted to have powers and she never did, even from when she was a little girl. And they showed that how she was at her birthday party trying to, have some powers. And then a rainbow came out. She ain't make that rainbow. And the kids was like, oh, did you make that happen? She was like, well, So she kind of implied that she did, right? So she been faking it till she made it the whole time. And in one of the interviews, actually it was with McGuire, he was talking about how the writer, how Glinda, we get to see not just who the world perceives her as, this, beautiful person who has it all, who's wonderful. We get to see the parts of her that she wants to conceal. We get to see why she is how she is and her vulnerabilities. But I also feel like Glinda, I don't feel great about Glinda at the end of this movie. I feel like Glinda gets the typical thing that people like her who are privileged get, and not just privileged. Like Glinda had money too. Okay, so that's part of the privilege.
Yeah, but you're supposed to know that she's changed. Right, you're supposed to think that she's changed, but I don't know how much because every step of the way.
And she might have changed, but look at the sacrifice. So Glinda gets to have this character arc that is like, okay, I changed a little bit for the better. And at the end of her change, she just now learning how to maybe do a spell or two and then, activated her superpowers. Whereas Elphaba has been operating in her superpowers the entire time. And the great sacrifice she has, she off in no man's land. And she got her man. But you know what I mean? That's it.
Yeah, but I think that she hasn't changed because she was, every step of the way, it looks like she's on the right side or she's good, right? And then at every step, it just turns out that she is not for good.
Did she do anything unforgivable?
Almost everything. Right? So especially she got Nessa killed, right?
Yeah.
And all that stuff.
Yeah.
All that stuff is terrible, right? She was trying to get Elphaba to come on over to do the fake stuff for the wizard because, as we know, she liked the attention and stuff. She got all that stuff. So that's what I'm saying. Like, but just think of every step of the way. You got this conflict of, is it good or bad? That in the next couple minutes, she's turning back to evil.
Right.
Or wicked.
Right.
So then at the end, how am I supposed to believe that she is going to do good?
Whip everything into shape.
Right? But I think that it doesn't happen. That's the point. Because we've seen with Nessa too, right? You have Elphaba as your sister. You have your issues or whatever they're called. I don't necessarily mean to call it the issue. But you have all this going on and you still treat the Munchkins the way you treat them and all this and govern the way that you govern. Right? So basically that seemed like the role that Glinda stepped up to or became.
Well, like Glinda was evil. Like Glinda was being evil and so was Nessa Rose being evil, even if they had good reasons for however they were doing the dastardly deeds, right? Whereas Elphaba, who was not being evil. And that's the difference to me.
Yeah. So after all that happened, the way the first movie opens up, she's like, oh, she's wicked, right? And it's like, was she? Yeah, I knew her, blah, blah. She was about to leave or whatever. And then, oh, hold up. I need to make it. In that moment, after all of this has happened.
Your first instinct is still to fake it.
Yeah.
And
so
even though you did the right thing,
though that's
in the end, you still,
But you can always go to, that's what Elphaba would have wanted because that's what Elphaba said. So I don't know if that's necessarily
I think
true.
Elphaba understood things about the world and just accepted them after she understood how the world was. It's kind of like the marginalized people. Go ahead.
Yeah, but is it a film that should tell us that? For the marginalized to just resign, we have to be bad so that people can think good. That's a negative message in itself. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and it's supposed to be
think
good.
That the good person was a wicked person so that you could follow somebody
so that the
who
mediocre
has
person
could be looked at
and followed. As amazing.
Yeah, what? And it's the marginalized person who has to resign to the fact that, I'm wicked, we bad.
Glinda is mediocre. And she was that way from the beginning. She was never, but here's my thing. Glinda had her gifts, right? She had her charisma. She had the fact that people liked her. She was pretty. She was rich.
Do you need charisma?
Okay, forget even if she,
right. I think of the film Money Don't Cost a Thing or whatever the first one was.
Love Don't Cost a Thing.
Yeah, Love Don't Cost a Thing. And how Nick Cannon's
Can't
doing
Buy
that
Me
dance.
Love.
Yeah, Can't Buy Me Love. Yeah. And they do the dance, and then everybody started doing it, right? It's just because of that position. Is it just because the way you look and you came from money and it's not really charisma?
Well, right, because everything that you do is so the message is everything you do is going to be amazing if you're the it girl, if you're the in girl, if you know what I mean? And so that is my complete point, is you already had it, and I put it all in air quotes, like you already had things that most people want, but even that wasn't enough, right? Because the desires of Glinda at that point in the movie, the desires of her young heart were to actually be able to do magic. But the other part is, was she willing to give up all of the other quote unquote gifts that she had, the beauty, the money, the prestige, people looking up to her, the popularity, because, she was saying in that song, Wonderful, like it is wonderful for people to be in this position, right? So she acknowledged that she wanted that. It's like, you got to have everything.
Yeah.
You got to have everything.
In 2025 eyes, wouldn't it be better if Morable had changed, because she was under the quote spell of the patriarchy of and the misogyny of the wizard, and that's why she operated the way she was, because of that's the world that she had to be in.
Because Morrible had a few little, like you said, she had some powers.
She had the powers.
She has the
It didn't
powers.
have to be the marginalized person go away and they just throw the powers off to, the privileged one. Because that's how the movie ended. Here you go. You had it all, but now you have it all.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying it's a bad movie because
it's just things that it made me think
and I think it's realistic because that's how things have played out throughout history.
Well, that's how the world is, right? We care about what it looks like, not what it really is like. It's all about perception, and perception is reality, kind of thing. And that's what it is. But it is duly noted. It is duly noted to me though that Elphaba couldn't have Fiyero intact. I guess handsome, fine Fiyero as her knight in shiny armor. He had to be,
right,
made into a scarecrow. She
in the
gets
fairy tales or whatever, right? The frog turns into a prince. The prince turned into a frog,
basically a scarecrow, and that's who you get. So you still, and so it is not lost on me that he called her beautiful. Not only, both of them actually called her beautiful. We saw in the first movie where Glinda calls her Elphaba beautiful, and then Fiyero calls her beautiful in this part. And
there was a but though.
Yeah,
it was you're beautiful, but I'm looking at it a different way.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like you're just beautiful. It was you're beautiful if I look at things differently. Like what?
Like nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear you're beautiful if I close my eyes and I'll just open them a little bit. You're beautiful when I'm drunk. You're beautiful,
that's what happened.
You're beautiful for a insert whatever else, and yeah, but at the end, she flips it back on him and she tells him like, hey, he's beautiful. And,
but he was a whole scarecrow. It ain't even,
so
yeah.
So there's pieces of it for me. Now there's something else I did want to mention about, the director, is it John Chu?
Is it John M. Chu?
And he was saying, because how one of the changes that they made in the script was about Nessa Rose. And in the original story, Elphaba was going to help Nessa Rose be able to walk. But in the movie, they chose to change it to where Elphaba is making Nessa Rose fly, right? Because he was saying that it's such an ableist perspective to say that it's everybody who's in a wheelchair's dream to like walk or to do, those things. And that he got that from the actress who is indeed in a wheelchair. And I hadn't really thought about that. And I liked that it made me consider it. That
when I see stuff like that, I also see that it's from one person's perspective, because what did it say? A black person told me this. So that's why we went with this narrative.
Okay. And so, but I like the idea that at least it makes me consider something different.
Oh, yeah.
It makes me say, because of course, it's like, if, a person who may be blind or deaf, that, their biggest dream is going to be able to see or hear. And in fact, that's not the case for everybody.
Yeah, but they should have pointed that out in the film, just like they did with Elphaba in the first one. Hey, your heart's desire to not be green. She didn't want that, right? They could have done the same thing with her. I'm going to make you walk. And she's like, what? That's not what I want to do.
And in that moment, what she wanted was that man.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, that isn't the most important
I don't really care
so
about
then the only reason we know that it's a different perspective is because you watched the interview about it, not because of the film just didn't include something that would be problematic.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes it's worth it to address it in the film, especially how many lines or how much more would it take?
Right.
To say that, no, not that. And then she makes her fly,
Right.
I still don't remember her flying though.
Well, she did. She was flying, and then that's when she was like, oh, my feet getting hot, my shoes. And then the shoes kind of turned red for a second. Because, the reason that her shoes are not like the red ruby slippers is because they couldn't make red ruby slippers due to the movie. The original Wizard of Oz movie.
Why not?
Because it was some type of conflict that it could not be red slippers. That's part of the
so I did look
issue.
up the copyright. There's a Wikipedia page on the copyright status of the Wonderful Wizard of Oz and its related works in the United States. That's the name of the article. And, you know, all the book and everything is in the public domain, but it's not until probably 10 more years until the film is in the public domain. So if there's some copyright about those shoes to the specific thing, then that's why.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, I don't know if it's so. I guess maybe it can. You know, it could be different.
They should have just said red. They shouldn't have said ruby. They should have just been like you say, they turned red. Oh my god.
Yeah, and I don't know how they got around it with the Wiz, because she definitely had on red ruby slippers in the movie The Wiz, and that was in '78. And then I think, well, even though it's not they're not calling them red ruby slippers, but right now The Wiz is on Broadway, and the girl is, I mean, it's like some tennis shoes. You know, they're not like slippers like these formal shoes, but they're like glittery red. They're like glittery red high top tennis shoes.
What?
So yeah.
So now I need there to be a sequel.
To you mean a Wiz?
No, to Wicked.
So what's gonna happen? We get to see.
We don't know what happened to Dorothy and all that. Something happened. Dorothy still got to go home. Like
Dorothy
you say,
can get home. I don't care what happened to Dorothy.
But no, it ain't got to be about her. But she has to get home. So then Elphaba has to come back. And I need a new Wizard of Oz film.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing an updated regular.
Looking up the copyrights of that, this dude wrote like 15 books on each character. Not on each character. He wrote a whole bunch of books though. L. Frank Baum. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm like, dang. There's probably some stuff up in there.
It is. They say it was really dark. A lot of it was really dark. So, yeah.
Yeah, but that would be cool. I think they would make money if they...
Oh, yeah, they definitely would.
If you got the same folks to make it.
There's a lot here that could be fleshed out and discussed.
And I don't really be watching movies like that. Like, you know, people talk about Sinners is the greatest movie of the year and all this. But I don't be looking at those movies like, yo, there's so much more that we could pull out of here to make other films and stuff. But there's something about this work, the Wonderful Wizard of Oz, that has that. Especially
so many potential storylines and directions, and you know, things that could be investigated and discussed. Much like in the other films where we talk about and we're like, well, what about this person and what about that, or what happened, you know. So, but I am glad that we got in to see it, because honestly, we would have been watching the movie today, and days ahead of time, the theater, the showing we were going to see was already starting to fill up with tickets being sold.
Oh yeah, it wasn't. It
would have been crowded. It was literally two or three other people in the theater with us. The theater was totally empty because they didn't put those tickets out for sale until it was some point in the day, the same day.
Right.
So people just weren't aware of it, and it was early. Like, think about it. If you get you work a 9 to 5 and the show is starting at 6:30, you may not even know about it.
I just so happened to look.
I'm so glad you looked.
What? Wait, what is this?
But yes, and go to the comments and let us know if there's some other discussions that you think we need to be having about just Wicked in general, what you thought about it, some feelings that you have about our thoughts on Wicked, and anything else you want to tell us about.
If you made it this far, type "power corrupts" in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around to the end.
And be sure to check out one of the videos that's on the screen right now. And also be sure to visit axiom.app, where you'll find all of our recent videos in one place with links to them back here on YouTube so you can watch them here.